Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have a lot of people registered for tonight's Wild Talks. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get logged in before we begin. Okay, welcome, everyone. I think just about everybody's in the webinar. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jill Moore. I'm the Executive Director of Asia Wild, and welcome to tonight's Wild Talks featuring Global Sanctuary for Elephants, co-founders Scott and Kat Blay. For those of you who are new to Asia Wild, I just wanted to give you a quick overview. We are a U.S. nonprofit organization, and we are a grant maker. We raise funds from people all over the world and make targeted grants to animal welfare organizations working on the ground in countries all over the world to rescue and provide sanctuary and protection to animals worldwide. Wild Talks was created to spotlight these amazing grantees and their work, and to give our supporters like you the opportunity to hear and see firsthand the impact that your donations to Asia Wild are having on animals. So thank you for joining us. This is actually our third Wild Talk. Most of our grantees are actually in remote locations, and we have had some difficulty with connectivity and technical issues in the past. So this evening's interview is actually pre-recorded a few weeks ago by Scott and Kat on location at Elephant Sanctuary, Brazil, which is the beautiful scenery that you see behind me. It is a 2,800-acre elephant sanctuary in South America. It is Global Sanctuary for Elephants pilot project. Because this interview was pre-recorded, I wanted to go over a little bit about the grant that we provided to Global Sanctuary for Elephants and some changes that have happened since the interview was recorded. Asia Wild provided a year-long sponsorship of Lady, an Asian elephant that's in the care of Global Sanctuary for Elephants at Elephant Sanctuary, Brazil. Lady was a 40-year veteran circus elephant before coming into the care of Global Sanctuary for Elephants. And when she arrived, she was suffering from severe foot disease that was incurable and had a lot of medical expenses, and Asia Wild's sponsorship was helping to cover those expenses in order to keep her comfortable and to do their best, providing excellent medical care so that she could enjoy her life in sanctuary for as long as possible. Sadly, since the interview was recorded, Lady took a turn for the worse, and 1 week ago, this evening, she passed away at Elephant Sanctuary Brazil. So our hearts go out to everyone at Global Sanctuary for Elephants and Elephant Sanctuary Brazil. We know that you are struggling during this time of grief, and we greatly appreciate Scott's willingness to participate in tonight's Q&A after the recorded interview is over. So we do get an opportunity to ask questions. If you have any questions, some of you sent in questions during registration. If you have questions as you're watching the interview, please submit them through the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we will do our best to make sure that we answer all of them. If we don't get to something that you wanted to know about, we will make sure to get the answer and email you. So for now, I am going to stop sharing And I'm going to turn off my screen so that Peggy can run the interview, and it runs about 20 minutes, and then we'll be back for a live Q&A with Scott Blay.
Hello, I am Scott Blaze. And I'm Kat Blaze. We are here on location at Elephant Sanctuary Brazil, which is the pilot project of Global Sanctuary for Elephants. Scott and Kat, thank you so much for being here with us today. I would love for you to share the story of when and why you established Global Sanctuary for Elephants. Global Sanctuary for Elephants was established in 2013 out of a necessity to help build sanctuaries internationally, to support advancing legislation, and the necessity to give captive elephants a better life. Joyce Poole and Pettigranley from Elephant Voices approached us asking if we could go to Brazil and see if it would be feasible to create a sanctuary for elephants here because of the need. We visited and found that not only was it feasible, but we had several zoos approach us asking if we would take their elephants, even though we didn't have a property and we didn't truly exist. And the city was pretty significant, but the location also seemed like it would be perfect for captive elephants. Here in South America, there's a lot of advancing legislation that was really putting an end to circuses. And that was in conjunction with a very active government who was actively confiscating elephants that, based on our experience, never would have been confiscated in the United States. Except for they had nowhere to go. So you had several elephants who were still living on the property of the circuses they were supposed to be confiscated from, living on chains. At the time, there was also an elephant in Chile who had actually technically been confiscated by the circus years early, but she stayed in the custody of the circus, again, because there's no solution. Eventually, just before the founding of Global Sanctuary for Elephants, we helped relocate her from the circus to a temporary facility while waiting for her forever home. And part of wanting to create a space like this, in South America was, one, there was no healthy solution for elephants here, but two, from our work at sanctuaries prior to this, we saw the healing abilities of sanctuary and what it offered elephants and how much of their life it gave them back. So we wanted to take everything they shared with us through that time and be able to offer that same healing, that same safe space, that same respect and autonomy that had been taken away from them decades before to elephants in South America as well. The simple reality is that we have been given a lot of gifts based on our history of working with elephants in captivity, based on the co-founding of the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee, and all that we were learned from that facility or from our experience there, and carry that forward. It is required for elephants to heal. We know it is required for them to find a new life, to find the space, the peace, the serenity to recover from years of trauma. Can you describe what exactly it is you do, your roles at Global Sanctuary for Elephants? What exactly do you do? Well, the question of what exactly do you do is an interesting one. Basically, in the nutshell of the organization, we exist to help build the foundation of sanctuaries internationally. As we mentioned, our pilot project is here in Brazil, but we've already been asked to help support and help advise other projects internationally because of the experience that we have. Global Sanctuary for Elephants was founded on the principle of we need to use the experience that we have to help expedite the development of sanctuaries, to be able to expedite the recovery of elephants that are waiting for a better life. What that means in this case in South America is we have been here for 10 years now, just about 10 years. We helped procure the property. We're here to help build the foundation, to build the team, to train the people on site, to help do with the design and development of the physical property, also help with financial support, while helping to establish the local entity of Elephant Sanctuary Brazil, we work hand in hand with the local entity, the local nonprofit organization, to support their development, helping them to stand on their own, eventually allowing us to step away and further our assistance with other projects internationally.
So on a day-to-day basis, elephant care, elephant medical treatments, elephant training, caregiver training, sitting behind a computer, talking to supporters, donors, different veterinarians around the world. About anything you can think of, we probably have done or are doing on a regular basis.
Yeah, with small organizations like this, it's everyone has multiple hats, many hats. So sometimes you're an electrician, and sometimes you're doing elephant foot care, and sometimes you're fundraising and doing web design, and sometimes you're doing veterinary care on local wildlife for wildlife rehabilitation. In addition to what we're doing with elephants, we also, because of the location here in Elephant Sanctuary, Brazil, and that idyllic environment that we are in, we also help with wildlife rehabilitation and release, because there isn't anything that is available here in this state. So sometimes it's learning with tapirs and anteaters and macaws, endangered eagles. So back to what exactly do you do? A little bit of everything, all surrounding helping to build an entity that lasts forever to give animals, elephants, exotic animals, not exotic animals, sorry, wild animals, a place to live and recover and thrive.
The sanctuary is so much more than just providing space for them and giving them food. You know, that's not the difficult part. The difficult part is trying to help them work through the trauma that they've experienced, which all of them have experienced. All of our elephants, except for one, were circus elephants and then sent to other facilities, some zoos, some farms, some aquariums. I mean, you name it. And their past has a significant impact on them. And in order for them to be able to be part of a herd and be a productive herd member and feel good about themselves and work through some of their issues, there's a lot of behavioral aspects to everything we do. It is getting to know your elephant, both physically, you know, what they eat, how they move, socially, who's their friend, how do they communicate, who are they more insecure about, how do they communicate those things, and then emotionally with, you know, what do they struggle with, what are they insecure about, what are their fears, what can we help them work through. So the easy part, well, not the easy part, it took us over a year to find this land, but space, you know, isn't the hardest part. It is really knowing elephants, and again, that's where our past comes in and allows us to share that knowledge and how we're interpreting things and what we're seeing from the elephants with people that we're training now that have never worked with elephants before, so that they can carry that forward and be able to take care of the elephants and provide them with the space that they need emotionally as well as physically.
I know everyone is anxious to hear an update on Lady. Can you tell us a little bit more also about her background, what her life was like before, and what it's like now that she's
Nearly 35 years, something like this now, working with many dozens of elephants. She has probably taught me more than any other single elephant has ever taught me. She is just exceptional and unique and powerful and sweet and soft and
Not easy.
not easy, but very good communicator
Sure.
if you are willing to listen to the subtleties. And she is one who demands excellence. And when I say demands, it is she will let you do any treatment that you need to do, but she wants to make sure that you are really present with her.
Elephant, she was confiscated from the circus and sent to a zoo for better treatment. And a year later, after her arriving at the zoo, somebody happened to be by the garbage bins and looked through the slots of the fence and saw that there was an elephant back there in between the offices. She was in a tiny little hot wire pen with big tree stumps around it, trying to keep her chained in place, and she could take about 2 steps in each direction. She was angry, she was aggressive, she was throwing things, she apparently tried to hurt several people. This person took video, leaked it to the media. It got out that the zoo that was supposed to be taking such good care of her was keeping her like that. So they started to build the enclosure that they were supposed to. During this process, a legal process had begun, and long story short, it was decided that she was going to come to the sanctuary. The reality is, she's so giving, she's so trusting. You know, we do treatments. Her feet were in terrible condition when she showed up. Her ankles were so swollen that there was no definition in her ankle. It just went from her foot to her leg, and it was straight up. She had really stiff joints, couldn't bend her elbows. You know, she could barely walk. She was in a lot of pain. So she was in a lot of pain, and she didn't know us from anybody. But the first day that she arrived, she allowed us to do foot soaks with her. And to do foot soaks with her, you hold their trunk in your hand. It's a connection. It's a way to feel when their energy shifts. You know, there's a lot to it. It's also the dangerous part of an elephant. So if it's in your hand, you know, it's not doing anything else. And, you know, you give food, reward, treats, praise. And she walked right into the foot soak. She put her trunk in my hand. She relaxed it. She was great. I mean, we had to do trimming and all sorts of things that were absolutely going to be uncomfortable for her. And she was great with all of it, as long as you were right there with her.
She's exceptional. She is an elephant who, like so many in captivity, have really extreme foot infections. Osteomyelitis in elephant's feet for a long time was the #1 killer of elephants in captivity. It's from standing on inappropriate surfaces, from very unhygienic locations, you know, a lot of bacteria because people are not cleaning properly, not disinfecting properly. And those foot injuries just attract that bacteria. It enters the foot, it grows, it manifests. People ignore the small signs because they don't know what to do. They don't know what's going on. And it continues to grow until it becomes irreversible. It's a disease that is irreversible when it gets to the point that ladies was when she arrived.
It doesn't offer any sort of solution except for just trying to slow the progression, deal with the pain and the inflammation, and try to give her as good of a life as we can possibly give. And one of the nice things about Lady is she's our grass connoisseur. If you need to find a perfect piece of grass, Lady's your gal. But she really, really appreciates exploring so much of the habitat. You know, she is that adventurer. She goes down embankments on the creek that you would not think she could even go down with the condition of her feet. And she goes down, she goes up, she goes across. She will stay for 2 days, come back across. I mean, she's gone to places in the habitat that most of the elephants we have here have not ventured. And even though her feet have never been 100% comfortable at all since she's been here, it's just not a possibility. You can tell she has still enjoyed so much of her time and space that she's been able to have here.
Can you tell us how the grant from Asia Wild has impacted Lady specifically, but more broadly, your work at Global Sanctuary for Elephants?
Reality of the elephants that come to Sanctuary. Nobody's sending baby elephants to Sanctuary. You know, there are facilities all around the world that are willing to essentially send their old geriatric, need significant care, can't breed anymore elephants to sanctuaries so they can replace them with other elephants. And we know that that is what Sanctuary signs up for. We know that these elephants that come here are going to be not only emotionally troubled, but very physically compromised. And that's part of where our specialty lies. And it is part of just wanting to give them a really nice end of life after everything that's been taken away from them and everything they've had to endure. You know, they deserve 2 weeks, a month, 5 years, you know, whatever they can get at Sanctuary?
There are thousands of captive elephants around the world, tens of thousands of captive elephants around the world. There are 3 sanctuaries accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. We need more. More elephants need this opportunity. More elephants need this space. More elephants need to be revered and respected and honored for whatever it is that they want. Whether they want, like Lady, a space to explore with lots of grass, but on her own, but not really on her own, or a space to be immerse herself with the rest of a new family, as other elephants have done here. And our job is to try to create the space that is these elephants so richly deserve around the globe, so that more elephants can be given this chance that Lady has been given.
Said it is expensive, so getting grants to help with her medical costs and her medical care is huge, because she needs it in order to have this quality of life. So Asia Wild granting her care for a year is a big deal.
It's brilliant. These projects, any projects that's working for wild animals, really any nonprofit organization, none of us do this alone. None of us can do this alone. It requires a tremendous amount of support from so many different directions, so many different entities, individuals, foundations, corporations. And again, as Kat said, Asia Wild support is just absolutely brilliant, to be able to not only allow us the comfort to spend what is absolutely necessary for Lady, but also liberating other funds to continue with other expansions. We have more elephants waiting for us. We have to expand the space that the elephants already have now. Pretty soon, we're actually going to be at capacity, and we have to continue to expand the habitats. We have the land, we just have to build more fences. So a grant like Asia Wild is not just helping Lady, it's actually liberating that $50,000 that would have been put towards Lady to be able to put towards construction and further expansion.
Yeah, as a smaller nonprofit, we don't have millions of dollars to throw at anything we want. So again, having somebody help us to fund any of the needs, but something that is so important, and means the world to her, which in turn means the world to us, is greatly appreciated.
We're so grateful for the trusting in our work and giving us this, this grant to be able to further our mission all the way around. So, Asia Wild, thank you so much. We are so greatly appreciative.
Could you give us a sneak peek at any big projects you've got coming up, or maybe any up and coming rescues that are on the horizon? I know everybody would love to learn more about all the work you're doing.
Let's see. We have been here at Elephant Sanctuary Brazil. We've been here in Brazil for 10 years, almost 10 years. We've been on the property since the December of 2015, and we've been on a constant state of growth. The biggest project right now, and the project that will continue for the next few years, is more fences. More fences equals more freedom, equals more elephants, more recovery.
The reality is that in order for Sanctuary to be Sanctuary, the space also has to be able to sustain itself. The trees, the grass, all of that has to essentially be in one piece in order for the elephants to be able to do one of the things that comes most naturally to them and seems to be so comforting mentally to them, is eat grass. Sounds really basic, but you're talking about 95% of captive elephants don't have that luxury. So we also have to nurture the environment. It means limiting the amounts of elephants that we have in certain spaces, making sure that we have enough area fenced in so that not only can the elephants roam and be mentally stimulated by the different smells and sounds and everything around them, but so the property itself can continue to thrive and provide that for them. So right now, we have 3 African elephants in Argentina that we are just waiting for permits to bring to the sanctuary. And then we're kind of at capacity for the female Asian habitat. And what we want to ensure is that we can provide a healthy space for every elephant. We're pretty much at capacity for the female Asian habitat as well. So So we're planning 2 expansions, one of the female Asian habitat, which will add about another 220 acres, and one of the female African habitat, which will add another 80 acres. And this way we'll be able to accept more elephants. So not only can we accept more elephants, but for the African elephants, it will give them much needed space.
A really bright side of our work here in Elephant Sanctuary Brazil is the land is fully paid for. We were very, very fortunate not only to find a very generous owner, former owner of the land, who was very patient with us, but also had a donor who stepped in to help finalize the payments of the land. So the organization is operating completely debt-free. All the funds that come in are going directly towards expansion, and we don't have to worry about ever having to buy more property. This property is sufficient for all of the expansion that will be needed for every elephant from South America and Central America. We have the capacity. Once the fences are constructed, we have the capacity for well over 50 elephants here.
Thank you, Peggy. And thank you, everyone. I would love to take this opportunity now to introduce Scott from On Location in Elephant Sanctuary, Brazil, which we see behind me. Thank you for joining us, Scott. I know that this has been a really difficult week for you and for everyone on your team. And I can tell you that all of our supporters and the folks that have been registering for tonight's event have been sending messages to forward on to you with their heartfelt condolences and prayers and love. And I will forward all of those messages to you and Kat to share with your staff. But we've gotten tons of questions. So I'm not really sure exactly where to begin. I mean, we didn't actually talk at all about your background, but we do have some very specific questions about Lady, if you're open to talking a little bit about her before we move into some more general things.
Sure. First off, thank you, Jill. Thank you, Asia Wild. Thank you for all the participants for joining us this evening. Jill, thanks for trying to make me cry. Yeah, it is still really raw. It's still really emotional. And I mean, Lady's just a gem. And I think since she is truly the lady of the hour, I think let's focus on her. People that want to learn more about our background, more about the organization, there's a lot of information on our website, globalelephants.org. And let's spend this time talking about Lady. Let's really honor her life, all that she went through and all that she did and all that she shared with us and all the glory that she, brought to our lives into the sanctuary. And let's put let's leave the spotlight on her. It's where it really belongs.
Great. Well, we had a couple of people that were wondering what the process was for making the decision about euthanizing her, and also wondering about the other elephants at the sanctuary and their reaction and whether or not they had an opportunity to visit with her before her passing.
Yeah, so it's a complicated procedure, process, not procedure. It's a complicated process. I mean, every individual elephant is in our focus with Global Sanctuary for Elephants is every individual is truly a unique individual. You can't put any two in the same box. Each moment is different. Each day is different when you're doing treatment. With Lady, she really punctuated that for us more than any other elephant of what is she, where is she today? Is she tolerant of treatment and just being tolerant, or is she really embracing treatment? Is she, what's her pain level at? What's every day is unique. And over the last 6 months, it's been a tough road for her. Until about 6 months ago, we were able to maintain a lot of the slow the advancement of her disease, her foot disease, as we discussed in the question and answers. But about 6 months ago, she started having her legs swell up almost entirely, from her toes up above her elbow, almost into her shoulder. And we were able to reduce that a little bit. But this was the day that we knew would come. 4 years ago, when she first arrived, we said to our team, this has one pathway. We can slow it down, but it's going to end in this scenario where this otherwise healthy elephant is basically going to have her feet, taking her life. Whether she does that on her own or, through euthanasia or through sepsis or many other things that can happen with these foot infections, this foot infection is going to take her life. And over the last 6 months, we saw this degradation. And we saw a shift in her spirit. We saw a shift in her exploratory nature. And it wasn't constant. She'd have a couple bad weeks and then she'd have a couple really good days. And then she'd have a couple bad weeks and a few good days. And throughout that time, she was still doing lady things. She was still exploring the grass and she was surrounded. There's some photos recently of the grass was literally over her head. It was so beautiful and lush at the end of our rain season here. And she was thriving in it. And then a little while later, she, a shift in her face and she just is withdrawing from that life a little bit, and you could see that daily grind for her, and you could see it taking its toll on her. Over the last few weeks, every time when we went to go feed her in the morning or in the evening, particularly in the morning, especially with that tall grass, and you couldn't find her right away, there's always that fear: is this the morning we're going to find her laying down? And last week on Tuesday morning, we found her laying down. We've been in this situation before with other elephants, remembering our past, having worked in a sanctuary life for almost 30 years now, having helped dozens and dozens of elephants through the recovery and honestly, honoring them through their passing. Our philosophy is they fight, we fight. And, we're there until the end, whatever first day we encounter an elephant, we are there by the side until the very end, whatever that need may be. In almost every situation we've had, when you have a downed elephant, you ask the question, what do we do? Do you euthanize? Do we not euthanize? What is that step? It's a scenario that we involve everybody with. All of the caregivers are involved, all of veterinary staff, international consultants are involved. And this was the second time in my history that we have decided that an elephant needed to be euthanized. The first one, we actually reversed that decision because it was an immediate shift in him, and we saw him letting go on his own. And then with Lady, we all met on that first day. We talked about it right from the beginning. Where's she going? How do you feel her? And there was already a disconnect with her, more so than any other elephant that I've seen in this situation. Her breathing was different. Her connection to the world around her was different. We've had other elephants that were down for multiple days and they continued to eat and drink and engage, and she was just totally disconnected and engaged. And because of how resilient and powerful this beautiful elephant was, small but incredibly mighty, we saw that this truly was not Lady anymore. She had already given up that fight. And for her to get to that point of saying, I can't do it, I have to lay down, for an elephant that is as resilient and powerful as she was, that was a real clear sign for us that, we need to be here for her. So the next day throughout the night, we were with her. She was really calm. The next day we had one of our consulting vets, who was an equine specialist, come over. And since she had not seen her for about a week or 2 weeks, we said, how do you see her this morning? Give us a fresh set of eyes that hasn't been through this daily struggle and the hourly struggle with her while she's down. And she said, I think this is a case that we need to talk about helping her through the process. And we met with all the staff again, and it was just absolutely beautiful, from a manager, from a co-founder, from from a leader on the team, to see how absolutely everybody came together with all the diverging personalities, and all the diverging philosophical views on euthanasia. And everyone said, yeah, this is it. And it was really just a remarkable journey for us to be able to be there in a way that we knew we had to, although it was heartbreaking to do. So to answer the question, long story short, it's a long process of understanding who the individual is, where they are, not only, where they are, where their struggles with health struggles, but also where they are in that moment, and bringing all the team together and having a discussion of what is best, what do we need to do? Because none of us have the absolute answer in these scenarios. We just have to try to do the best we can.
And how much worse it would be if there was disagreement on it, because it's already a painful situation. But then it's wonderful that everybody at least was in agreement and you could all move forward with the decision and be peaceful for her.
Yeah, and one of the things on that, Jill, is because we honor each individual, elephant, and that is our daily process here with each individual, it actually brings that out in the team also. Everyone has a voice, and we don't have to agree to be united.
Mhm.
And we are still on the same purpose. Even if somebody didn't agree with it, there would not have been a heaviness to that. It
Right.
was, I understand this is where we're going. I don't know that it's the best thing to do, but it would not have brought, a really negative energy to it
Mhm.
necessarily. It was brilliant that it wasn't, but I think our team has enough respect for everyone else and every other voice
Mhm.
to understand that, none of us have the answers, and a lot of times people lean on me and saying, what do I do in this situation with a particular elephant? And sometimes I'll say, 35 years and I don't know, but let's try this. Let's see how Hannah's going to respond to this today and see if this will help, open that door or open the communication. Because, we're dealing with a highly dynamic individual, a highly dynamic species, highly intelligent species, highly emotional, highly sensitive. But we're also dealing with individuals who have been grossly traumatized.
Yeah.
They've endured 40 and 50 years of negligence and trauma and abuse and solitary confinement. The list goes on. And I think Lady really summarizes or punctuates, what that captive life does.
Mhm.
She was an individual, and going back to honor the individual nature, she broke the mold on what sanctuary means for each individual. She didn't want to be with the other elephants. That doesn't mean she didn't like talking to them, but she clearly showed, I have no interest to have physical engagement, whether between a fence or even when she was with elephants in the same space. There was times that she was with Hana and Mara, and they just had this mutual agreement. 20 meters, that's our limit. We'll get to be 20 meters apart. We'll look at each other, we'll talk back and forth, and then we go our separate directions. She really did not want to be in direct contact. Is that because of being solitary her whole life? Is that because of just her unique individual nature? Is that because her feet were so compromised that if she had to run away, she couldn't? If she had to defend herself, she couldn't? We never really know all of those answers, but we honor what it is that she's showing us. And yeah, going back to individual voice, individual nature, and here I am long-winded again to get back to the point of we are so grateful for the situation as it evolved. She fought into the end, and our team was with her the best way we could.
And she is buried on the property now.
Yes. Yeah, she loved the male Asian habitat. It's a new habitat that was developed for male Asian elephants. And since we don't have any male Asian elephants coming in yet, and the grass was growing exponentially, we actually shifted Lady over there. There was times that Hana actually shared that same habitat with her, although they did not come in direct contact. They were relatively close, and so we buried her relatively close to that habitat as well.
Mhm.
About the other elephants, that was the other part of it.
Yeah, that was it.
Because she did not have direct contact with other elephants, and because of her being in the male habitat, she did not actually, the other elephants did not come over and see her
Mhm.
at the last days. It wouldn't have been fair in those last days because I don't think she would have been comfortable with elephants approaching, even if there was a fence, because of her nature. But also after postmortem, we didn't, for multiple reasons. One, being that we had to go through the necropsy process. The other element is that all of the elephants came as close as they could to the area, and you could get a sense from all of them that something was a little bit different those 2 days. They were all a little bit quieter, they were all a little bit different. And that's the beautiful thing with elephants, they don't have to be side by side to understand what's going on with one another. These are animals that communicate over many kilometers, and their vibe, their energy, their that transfers, I think, even further still. And they are so interconnected to one another that they don't have to be side by side to be able to pay their condolences.
Mhm. Wow, that's a really good point, and that's amazing. I wanted to share, I do have a little video that I think you all shared on your social media, just of Lady, and you mentioned that she's small. I was actually thinking this when I was looking at this video, and we can keep our cameras on and just talk because there's no sound over it. I'll just show it. It's a short little video, but I think it shows her life in sanctuary beautifully. But
Again,
she
you're not
does.
supposed to make me cry, Jill.
I'm not trying to, I promise. But I do want to share her beautiful face and her enjoying herself in sanctuary. And she does. She looks like she's I know that the camera is down low, but she does look like she's a little dwarfed in that in the tall grass there.
I
but
have videos and photos of that same habitat a little bit later. This was a little bit earlier in the year. I'm actually standing up on top of the four-wheeler. In one area, I'm standing on top of the fence and I can barely see her back. The
oh,
grass is so
wow.
tall and it's just lovely. It's part of what makes this property so perfect, this location so perfect. It is year-round temperatures that are ideal. It's a long growing season. It's incredibly diverse. You know, as Kat in the video and the pre-recorded answers mentioned, you know, her exploring through the valleys and the creeks and stuff. I mean, just incredible diversity that just fuels their natural drive to explore and wander and migrate.
Mhm. Well, I mean, that leads me to a, a question that I know is too long for you to be able to answer here, but I do want to, I do want to bring it up because someone was curious about what, you know, if someone was to start an animal sanctuary now, today, what would be the biggest challenge? And I know that you really struggled to find the property, that the amazing property that you're in now, that took quite a while. Would you say that that's the biggest challenge other than fundraising? I mean, we all know that the funds are the number one challenge, but um
That's a difficult question, Jill. What is the biggest challenge? There's a lot of hurdles, and I think the biggest challenge is pushing through those hurdles, is not giving up before they get a chance to succeed. You
mhm,
know, there's so many fears of failure. There's so many fears, and there's so many days that you say, what are we doing? Are we still on the right path? Should we still be here? I mean, those early years, I mean, we were, I mean, if you listen, if those want to follow along more of the journey to get to this point, you can check out our podcast. There's links all over our website, globalelephants.org. Yes, Jill, I am plugging our website. But there's a long story of how we got to this point, and there was a lot of struggle in that. And I think that any person with more sanity would have said, nah, let's give up. But you know, we've often jokingly say that we have just enough crazy to push through. And it's not just the crazy, it is the understanding of what sanctuary means for these individuals, understanding the end result and having lived and breathed that end result when you see these elephants come here from these horrific places where, you know, the last year that came, poaching Gijamina, mother and daughter, you know, Gijamina was born into a 400 square meter concrete pit, and that's all she knew for 23 years is concrete walls, concrete floor, couldn't see forward. All it was concrete above, you know, a meter and a half above her head. You know, so her only view of the outside world was looking up to the trees and up to the sky. You know, and to see how she evolved and grew and explored this incredible sanctuary and developed new friendships. And, you know, there's again stories on our website about, you know, their recovery and their for watching Pocha watch her daughter explore life for the first time. And the stories go on, and knowing that those would come help push through those days of doubt. You know, and our colleagues at Elephant Haven in France, you know, there's many times that they contacted and said, you know, is there ever going to be a day when it's going to happen, when it's going to come together? You know, it's because it feels like you're just one barrier in front of another barrier in front of another barrier, whether it be searching for the land, open up the doors with, you know, bureaucratic hurdles, you know, or walking through the criticisms. You know, almost every beautiful project has more criticisms than support sometimes, you
mhm,
know, and, you know, you're opening the door to a new possibility. And some people are reluctant to change. Some people are threatened by positive change. And having those processes, even with Lady, I mean, we've been here for, you know, as we said, in Brazil for 10 years now. And after Lady's passing, there was somebody who, a biologist who actually supports a lot of captive animal work. He was incredibly critical. I mean, really derogatory and defamatory. And, you know, we did not do right from Lady. We never gave her a chance. We don't have professional care. You know, we didn't try to help her. I mean, all these things that go on. And
mhm,
some of our team members who, you know, associated team members with not the direct elephant care saw some of that and they said, what is this all about? You know, and there's a lot of people that threaten that can take its toll on anybody starting a project like this. For all the people that we've known that work, you know, on sanctuary projects, we had it in the sanctuary Tennessee also.
mhm,
You know, we tried to help a bunch of elephants that had, you know, that we knew were positive for tuberculosis, and my God, people were vicious and
mhm,
vile, and you know, so that can take its toll. You know, when you're investing so much of yourself into a project like this, financially, emotionally, physically, you know, no days off, sometimes no, no real support. That can be the hardest part for me, I think, more than the funding, more than the bureaucratic. It's just the constant hurdles early on, and you just have to have the eye on the prize and knowing what's going to come at the end, and knowing the life changing, events that will occur.
Mhm. Yeah, the support will come. There are people out there that love animals and are inspired, but the number of people that are critical is overwhelming, not only for the launch, but then for each and every. I know you've had a lot of battles for every elephant that you've had to rescue. There's always a voice out there that tries to get into the media and say negative things to prevent the move to a sanctuary, and it must be very difficult and discouraging.
It can
Um,
also be rewarding in that also, if I'm gonna interject a little bit more on that, because sometimes we try to take the high road. People say, no, we have to battle. It's like you're never gonna win that. People that are in that place, you just have to give them a chance to work through that and hopefully find sometime in their future that they will see something different. And there was a rescue with Bambi, and I remember the director of the zoo was really horrible on social media and in the media, and so many lies about the sanctuary. And we went to go rescue Bambi because it was a judicial decision. And when we go into the scenarios, we always tell our team, we've won. Bambi has won. All the things that have been said negatively about us don't matter. Go in there with an open heart, with an open mind, with an open embrace. Let's talk to them. Tell them, hey, we know it's difficult. You don't agree with this, but give us a chance. We'll try to show you the life that we can give them. And I had the director of the zoo pull me back on the second day, and he was in tears and said, "I'm sorry.
mhm,
I was wrong." He said, "You had no right to be nice to me. You had no right to come here with the level of professionalism and the open nature that you guys brought in." He said, "It's not just you; it's your whole team. The professionalism that you bring, the detail with which you have designed the crates, the way you approach the elephant, the way you engage our team." He said, "This truly speaks for who you guys are." And he said, "I'm sorry. I was absolutely wrong."
mhm.
And that's, if you get into a battle, it doesn't win you. It spends a lot of energy. You
Yeah.
spend your time instead of focusing on what we need to do. And unfortunately, our world spends a lot of time fighting instead of looking for that positive path and looking to find a way to embrace one another and put our differences to the side for the common good of this individual elephant.
Mhm. And you've, since launching Elephant Sanctuary Brazil, am I right that you've brought to sanctuary 9 elephants?
Yes.
Remember right?
Yeah,
And
9 elephants have nine. Right now, we have five who are living with us, and nine
Mhm.
have come. One of the realities that we are dealing with in South America is the vast majority of the population is over 45 years old.
Mhm.
In North America, a lot of time, the average life for captive elephant is between 35 and 40. So all of these have already exceeded that average lifespan. Yes, there are going to be the anomalies. There are going to be some that are able to pass that threshold, as nature would have allowed them to do if they were free in Asia or Africa, where they didn't have the negative impact of captivity, where they didn't have the confinement and the lack of movement and the poor diet and the lack of veterinary care. But somehow these elephants have withstood that challenge, with the level of resilience that they have is just astounding. But all of them come here with a large degree of medical problems. As Kat in the interview, we're not taking in baby elephants.
Yeah.
Gijimina is 23 years old. She has a pretty good chance, but she arrived grossly obese. 23 formative years on completely the wrong diet. Without proper exercise. And then you compound that, you have six Hannah, who is over 65 years old, and she has always had indications of foot issues as well that stay hidden within her feet. But she has arthritis issues. She has again, withstood a lot of abuse in her years. 40, almost 50 of those years, she was alone.
Mhm.
There's just so much that they endure before they get here that we do the best we can for as long as we can. We always want more time. Ramba, she only had, I think, about 2.5 months, before her kidney disease, took her life long before we wanted her to do, but at least she had 2.5 glorious months.
Mhm.
Pocha was with us for 5 months. And one of the gifts that all the things that I've done and all the things that we've experienced with elephants, one of the greatest and one of those powerful was watching Pocha watch her daughter. And this is a story I've already told 1,000 times and will tell 10,000 more. It is absolutely was brilliant to see the look on her face as her daughter started to explore life that her mother could never provide for her.
Mhm.
And you just I mean, there are no words to describe those moments, and that really defines sanctuary. And
Mhm.
as we said, that's what pushes us through those hurdles that seem impassable sometimes.
That was going to be my next question was, what has been the most impactful for you of the elephants that you've been with at Elephant Sanctuary Brazil? And you already, jumped right into that. That story of Pocha and Gijamina is amazing. Sounds like she hung on just long enough to make sure that her daughter was settled, and then she could relax and
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so beautiful is giving them that chance. There's a thousand stories of those, with Pocha or with Gijamina or with Maya and Gita, who fought for 40 years. Maya was always aggressive to Gita. They lived on the circus for 40 years together.
Mhm.
And after day one, 12 hours in the barn, separated by a common fence, we opened up between them, and there was never a scuffle. And they weren't immediate friends. There was a minute of, hey, this day is new. And Gita, being as powerful as she was, she would look at mine and like, it's a new day. It's a new
Mhm.
life. And they just embraced it. And it took a little while for them to find that friendship, but they needed to find themselves first.
Yeah.
How to, you live on a chain. They were chained up for 6 years before coming to Sanctuary. They were on a chain that is about 3 meters long. And how do you explore life? How do you define who you are until you get a chance to make some sort of autonomous decision?
Mhm.
It is, we do that in human world as we're teenagers, we start exploring what our likes and our dislikes,
Mhm.
and you have that autonomous life to explore who you are and define yourself. And elephants don't have that.
Mhm.
Captivity doesn't allow it. And when they found themselves and they found each other through finding themselves, it was just absolutely brilliant. And the joy of them talking to each other throughout their property and being side by side and going and taking a drone up and seeing one stand over the other while one was taking a nap, given
Mhm.
their history of 40 years of fighting and seeing that
Wow.
there's no words. There's no
Yeah.
words. And this
Yeah.
is the power of the work that sanctuaries provide.
Mhm.
It is not just providing a space.
Mhm.
It's providing a place of healing and recovery and a level of joy that only autonomous life and reverence for who they are can bring.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I want to share a short piece of the aerial view film that you all have created of Elephant Sanctuary Brazil to give everybody really a perspective of where you are and where Lady has been. It's a long video. I won't show the whole thing, but I'll talk over it a little bit if I can, as long as the sound is not too loud. But let me share right now. And
Sure.
one of the things we are going to, let me make sure the sound's not too loud. It is truly spectacular to see just how much space they have. And you don't understand it unless you see it from this perspective, Scott.
We get to see it every day, and it's still astounding.
Yeah.
There is not a moment that we don't look around and say, wow, this just really is special. Finding this property and all that went into finding this property and the owner that was so incredibly helpful. I mean, there's just again, we said it during the interview, the recorded interview, that we're not alone in this, and there's a lot of people that came together just to make the property happen.
Mhm.
Um, there's so many stories that involve it, but the property is magical and it is perfect, and yeah, it is a huge piece of what it means to provide these elephants with sanctuary life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I could ask you a million questions and keep talking, but I do need to try to keep it within our 1 hour for our audience. And I just want to thank you and express not only our staff and our board, but also our audience and our supporters, sincere condolences to everybody. We have
Thank you.
we have lots of wonderful things to forward to you, wonderful messages of support, and Asia Wild is going to has already set up a donation page in honor of Lady, that
Oh,
we will
brilliant.
share with everyone that has registered tonight. And hopefully we can continue, with that, we can continue to support the life that so many of, all the elephants that you're taking such fantastic care of. And we appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Jill. We appreciate it so much. And if I can, somebody on the comments wrote, "I'm so sorry, so incredibly sad." It is absolutely heartbreaking when you lose an elephant, but that heartache pales in comparison to the joys of being able to watch her live in sanctuary.
Mhm.
Yes, we are terribly sad, but remember the good. Remember the glory of what sanctuary is, because that's really what matters, is that life that they got to live here, and everyone that came together to make that possible. So thank you for that your condolences with that. And but we have to celebrate every day for what these elephants have.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give Kat our best, and
I will.
I appreciate your being here tonight.
Thank you, Jill. It's always a pleasure to chat. And thank you, Asia Wild, for all your support. We're so grateful for this. And we look forward to continuing conversations with you guys and all the supporters.
Thank you. Definitely. All right. All right, everyone. I just want to quickly share with you some information. Hang on one second. Thank you for coming here this evening and for visiting with Scott and Kat and learning everything about Lady. She was an amazing elephant, and we are so proud to have had the support from donors like you all to make it possible for us to provide her final care at Elephant Sanctuary Brazil. I also want to point out that last year, this is just one of the amazing grantees that Asia Wild supported. We had actually received over $2 million in requests last year. And, we were able to fund a handful, but just imagine what we could do if we had the resources to not have to pick and choose, and we could help them all. And with the support of donors like you, and supporting our work and trusting in our stewardship of your funds, and in identifying amazing organizations like Global Sanctuary for Elephants and so many of our other partners, we can do our best to keep moving these projects forward and saving these animals. And it's all thanks to you and your support. We have just launched a tiger naming campaign in partnership with Wildlife Friends Foundation Thailand. 2 tigers that were rescued by them and are living in their sanctuary as part of the largest tiger rescue in Thai history. Visit the page on the website at asiawild.org/tigers. We also will have another grantee or partner being interviewed in June. We will make sure we have everybody's email. We'll make sure to send out the link, but you can always visit asiawild.org/events. And to make a donation in honor of Lady or for any of our projects, you can visit us at asiawild.org/wild. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been a wonderful evening, and we appreciate you, and we will see you next month. Thank you.